folks. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. My name is Paul Harrell, and this is the Millstone Report. As always, we can't do the program without you watching every single day. We really do appreciate it. We got a great show for you, really do. We're going to kind of dive into some electoral politics out of the great state of South Carolina. Before we do that, I want to remind you this portion of the program brought to you by Red Vive. That's redvivehealth.org/Paul. And coming up here in a little bit, we'll tell you about the great red light panels that you can get from redvivehealth.org/Paul. I'm going to start by just talking. When you think of South Carolina electoral politics, obviously a lot of people think about Lindsey Graham or Lady G or whatever you want to call them. Here is just real quick. This is a good. I think it's just a good place to start. Here is Lindsey Graham talking about Joe Biden and how we should admire him.
Admire Joe Biden as a person, then it's probably you got a problem. You need to do some self-evaluation, because what's not to like?
I don't know what's not to like. I mean, the Ashley Biden diary comes to mind. Also, essentially, his son Hunter Biden, essentially, getting all kinds of foreign money deals and everything else, and being extremely corrupt. Also, we had this. We've got this. Remember when he talked about shooting J6ers in the head?
In a separate meeting with Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, Fanone described the assault officers faced. And Fanone writes Graham responded, "You guys should have shot them all in the head."
We have much work yet to do.
Shoot them all in the head. So these tweets that I'm showing you are actually from a businessman by the name of Mark Lynch from South Carolina, who is primarying Lindsey Graham and is actually doing a great service to the state of South Carolina, great service to our country, and I would even argue the world, if you're one of these people that actually want peace and you don't want, continued war and, neocon influence. Mark Lynch, this is an incredible bio on his website, lynchforsenate.com, and I want to read it because I really appreciate him introducing himself by talking about his Christian faith, because we need that now more than ever out of our politicians. It says here that during the 1970s, Mark Lynch, president of Jeff Lynch Appliance Center, fondly recalls his father, Jeff, who would sell appliances during the day, rush home for a quick dinner, and then head back out to deliver the products sold that day. Today, Mark's journey is significantly different. Guided by his faith and the wisdom imparted by his father, he has transformed the company, propelling it far beyond its humble beginnings. In his mid-20s, Mark faced a pivotal moment in his life, a time he describes as the end of Mark. Having associated with the wrong crowd during his teenage and early adult years, he sought answers within himself, but ultimately realized he needed to look to Jesus for guidance. In the mid-1980s, Mark made a profound decision to stop relying on his own strength. He surrendered his will and embraced Jesus as the Lord of his life. This transformative experience liberated him from the chains of addiction that had held him captive for 40 years, or 40 years ago, rather. Held him captive 40 years ago. Since that time, Mark has dedicated himself to helping others find freedom from addiction and discover their identities in Christ. He has established multiple Christian recovery programs in the upstate region of South Carolina, where he resides. In 1983, just before his life transformation, Mark invested in the family business. Under his leadership and with divine guidance, the company has grown to be 35 times larger than it was at the time of the acquisition. Mark recognized, this is my favorite part of it, because I have, I've been around a lot of very successful businessmen, and when and saying this is to me, I think, a rarity among a lot of successful businessmen. Mark recognized that God, as the author and owner of all things, is also the true owner of his business. This realization has driven him to honor God through his stewardship of the resources entrusted to him. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we have with us now on the Millstone Report candidate for U.S. Senate, South Carolina Republican businessman, Mark Lynch. Mr. Lynch, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Paul. It's an honor to be on your show.
I really appreciate it, and I'm really excited. Can I just ask you the first question? What made you want to do this? What made you want to primary Senator Lindsey Graham, who, he's a very politically connected guy. There's no getting around that. What made you want to do this?
it all began in 2014, training, working with national security consultants, hearing what these guys are fighting against. And then later we were having educational seminars at churches and, bringing 500, 600, 700 people in, educating them about the terrorist threat that's infiltrated every area of our government, our homeland security, everywhere. And just started producing training seminars for people. We started training the local sheriffs and deputies and FBI and SWAT teams in our counties around us. And because of that, people heard my knowledge about that topic and said, man, you should run for an office. And I told them, you probably need to go take a drug test. I don't have any inclining or motivation to get into politics anyway, but local people prayed with me, talked to me, and I ran for a state Senate position back in 2020. I lost my election. It was stolen by like 5%. And since then, everywhere we go to a Trump event or any political event locally, I feel God pushing and say, you need to get back in, you need to run. That was just one time you ran. And my family and all the people we've worked with since then and doing political work through an organization we started called the United Patriots Alliance back then after my campaign, I've been asked over and over, you need to run for office again. So my wife started nudging again about a year ago and talking with awesome national consultants at the highest level. They agreed that my role would be a United States Senator, because I'm a fighter and I need to get in and make a difference. I can't, with the knowledge I have about everything and all the awesome people around me that God has put in my circle, I cannot not run. I've got to get in because I can make a difference.
Wow. Well, at this point, I think it's, look, the whole nation knows that. I think they remember, your opponent, Senator Lindsey Graham, when he ran for re-election last time. He was on Sean Hannity. It seems like he was on Hannity's show every night, begging for support, begging for money, and yet, he continues to really just be a Republican in name only on so many issues. We just played for you at the top of the show, what he thought about J6ers. We also, talking to him about how, Joe Biden is this, fantastic guy, but there's much, much more. He's never really heard of a war that he doesn't want us to get involved in and, send more young Americans to die. Certainly, was really aligned with neocon John McCain when he was alive. And so yeah. The whole nation, I'm not a South Carolinian. I live in Arkansas. But I know the whole nation kind of sits around, scratches their head, is why do South Carolinians or Carolinians keep sending this guy back to D.C.? He doesn't seem like he actually represents what most people think is a solidly red, deep, conservative state.
That's right. Well, and we're bringing that up. One of the biggest reasons these guys get in, and I don't want to use the word rhino anymore. I think the word is traitor. In South Carolina, we have open primaries. So the very enemies of God and the enemies of this country and the Democrat Party can come in on our primary elections, Republican primary elections, and they come in and vote for Lindsey Graham. And so we put out an article a while back. Another news organization talked to us, and we just exposed this article that came out on Breitbart, and it's on our website, I believe. Anyway, this is a copy, and it's not new. This has been out a while. This is an article where the Obama administration, his head pollster, Harstad, is talking to John Podesta in private email conversations that in the email, it's a couple of pages long about the article, that they needed to keep this quiet and not let it get out. But hey, God exposes stuff and it got out. And the Obama administration is talking through Obama and Harstad to Podesta. And he was the Pizzagate guy, you'll remember, with the child trafficking. And he said, we know that Lindsey Graham will be our greatest ally to the Democrat Party. So there you have it. These are the people that are proving it, and it's in private emails that we exposed. When we look at report cards, like our kids, they go to school, hey, how you doing in your schoolwork? Oh, I'm making all A's. Well, that's funny. We have your report card that came in the mail today. And so give me the cell phone and give me the car keys. You're grounded because you're not studying like you've told us. You're lying to us. So when we bring up the Freedom Index, that's a scorecard that talks about how did our legislators at the state or national level vote according to the Constitution. Lindsey Graham's Freedom Index score for his lifetime record is 57.
Wow.
Anything below a 70 is an F. The Club for Growth report card, lifetime score 65. The Heritage Action scorecard for his lifetime in service, 56. His Liberty score with conservative review is 43. I don't know of any more scorecards. Every one of them we know of that are legitimate records of how our employees that we elected are voting. He's failing. So Lindsey's not one of us. And South Carolinians are ready for a real, true, conservative, God-fearing patriot leader like me that has integrity, honor, and courage. And I'm going to add this because my friends know this about me in business and family and at church where I'm an ordained deacon. Mark Lynch has a backbone. And I'm kind of like Trump. I don't get bought off. I don't waver on my beliefs because I'm worried about a voter voting for me. Some people won't like me. They won't vote for me. But I'm not going to change my stance on my belief system for a vote. I'm going to do what's right because my endorsement's with God. That's who I want to be endorsed by, and we're all going to answer to that one day.
Amen. No, I completely agree with that. I'm glad that you compared yourself to Trump because, one of the reasons a lot of people, conventional wisdom is, that Trump has been able to resist more so than other presidents, the status quo is because he does have a lot of money and as well often doesn't need the job. I would put you in that category as well. You're a successful businessman. You've done well. And so the idea of going up there and increasing your net worth, through insider trading, I would imagine isn't something that you're interested in because you don't need the money like a lot of these other people do that get in there. You have a job to go back home to. And so that's very important really for all, I think, a lot of legislators, whether you're at the state level or you're at the national level. But you mentioned no longer using the word rhino, using the word traitor. I think that's a good trend. We need to make that happen. We've got this tweet up right now from you talking about this controversy with Senator Chris Van Hollen going to El Salvador trying to get this MS-13 gang member out. You write, the difference between myself and Lindsey Graham is I'll call Chris Van Hollen what he is, a traitor. Lindsey won't call Van Hollen a traitor because Lindsey is a traitor himself. What do you make about this? What do you make about what's going on right now with the Dems just doubling down on, MS-13 gang members and, trying to get them released from El Salvadorian prisons?
Yeah, well, what does that say about who they are? Workers around here that have been with me for years in our business or people in the political arena with us. Sometimes people question, why did that guy do that? Why would Lindsey Graham do that? I'm like, stop. Let's go back, time out. Let's remember, who is he? When people tell us, they're basically telling us they're the enemies. They're not holding up to the Republican creed and their oath. They're not fighting against domestic and foreign enemies, and if they're not doing that, and if they're okay with receiving all this money, like he's under investigation with Kash Patel for $82 million from the Ukraine, Lindsey got his hands on, and he's over the Judiciary Committee, and we're not serving justice, enemies of America and people that have betrayed the Republican Party and the voter and Trump and America. They don't arrest themselves. They want to let out their people, right? They want to get their people out of prison. They want to shoot good Americans, and a lot of them around here that one of our friends, Derek Gunby, had been wearing the ankle monitor, awaiting his 20-year prison sentence, and Trump, thank God, pardoned him. And, we know Lindsey was against all that. He wasn't for confirming Tulsi or RFK or the pardoning of the J6ers. He talked about them, shoot them in the head when that was going on. These are Americans, a lot of them awesome veterans that were willing to sacrifice their life on January the 6th. And they believed, like I do, that the election was stolen. And they went to voice their opinion in the First Amendment through their freedom of speech and their right to protest. And what did Joe Biden say when he was in office after Mike Pence also betrayed us because he had the authority and his oath that he didn't honor on January 20th? What did they all say? Biden told the whole world, all the MAGA supporters are now terrorists. Mm-hmm. So because we had a different regime, a lot of our younger kids and families out here, we've lived through a coup and there was never a shot fired. They took our country down by our own hands, and we all paid it. We paid for it. We funded the takeover of this country. I hope we get it back. Trump's a good opening to get that done. People like me are running for office now. We're flipping our precincts and taking them over, and we're getting real, true Republicans back in office again that will do what we all want to do, and will honor our Republican creed. It's time to make Republicans again. How about that?
How about that? Yeah, I mean, what do you think about? Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the tyranny that you mentioned? I guess what I would say is it seems like Lindsey Graham was trying to basically just wait out the first term of Donald Trump's presidency. He tried to make nice here or there, but then again, like you said, as soon as J6 happened, he went right back. As soon as he got reelected, and it seems like he's now trying to wait out Donald Trump's second term again. Going to try to figure out a way to survive once again. But if we look at what this country has been through. If you look at what happened, in 2016, framing Donald Trump for treason, the Intel, I call them the Intel oligarchy, and you look what happened in 2020, the stolen election, I agree with you there. You look like what we went through in 2020 with COVID, and then the shots, and then, they forced independent thinkers out of our military who didn't want to take the shot. We now have, more and more reports about what was actually in the shot. The adverse effects, the deaths, all of this. Is there ever going to be any accountability? Let me ask you that. The American people, I'm sure people in South Carolina, they want accountability. Elon Musk says he's got a paper trail now that leads right to Washington, D.C. Congressman Tim Burchett from Tennessee saying this better lead to people in D.C. being escorted out of these buildings in handcuffs. I mean, that at this point, it's time for accountability. Do you agree?
100%. I'm for enforcing the rule of law, and that's what our government is supposed to do, is protect us. That's their number one job, is to protect us, to honor the Constitution and protect the unalienable rights that God gave us. Those are unalienable. You can't take them from us. But we've got people now that are not us, that have gotten into office, that have gotten into authority at the local levels of mayor, city administrators, sheriffs, House representatives, state senators, Congress, U.S. senators, whatever. And we've had presidents a few times in between. And they're doing everything against what America First values would be. They're the enemies of our country. And we've got to name these enemies first and go along with who they say they are. When we're authorizing the burning down of our cities in 2020, nobody would stop that. And at the state level, those are sanctuary areas where our enemies have taken control of that. So they're not going to stop destroying America because they're for it. When we're okay with open borders like Lindsey's been, and I hold in my hand a direct mail piece he sent out, and it says, this was about 7 weeks ago, Graham leads the passage of the Laken-Riley Act to crack down on illegal immigration. So I've called him out in press conferences and things. I'll fly him, I will pay, and I'll meet him at the airport because I want to go to the Riley house and show them this direct mail piece he just sent out about 6 weeks ago, because he's never been for closing the borders. And one of his nicknames is Gramnesty, that he kind of took on himself and made up because he's forgiven amnesty to everybody that's already in here.
That's right.
Everybody that's in our country isn't for America. They didn't come to have a chance to qualify to see if we could vet them to have the American dream opportunity you and I've had. They're people that hate this country. They're here to destroy it. So we can't do stuff like that. And that's why, like on the news this morning, there were 2 more ladies they showed, daughters of our American families that were murdered by illegal aliens in this invasion we've allowed to happen. So it is common sense. How many times are we going to watch the same news report every night about will we ever close the border? Will we ever close the border? Thank God Trump's back. God helped him get back in here. We, the people, are tired of it. Anytime I speak at a major audience about our campaign, they cheer when we talk about the rule of law and arresting these people. So we got to go to that third final step. We know who they are. We have lists, and Pam Bondi's got to do the same thing. We have the Epstein Island list. We've all known most of the people on that list for 10 years or whatever. Arrest them. There's got to be consequences.
100%, wherever it leads.
Right.
Republican, Democrat donors, Democrat donors, uniparty, I agree, wherever it leads.
Right.
You mentioned earlier in the interview about closed primaries.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, is there any chance South Carolina could close their primary before your race against Lindsey Graham?
Well, I'm asking all the people out there, it's time to call your state house representative and your senator, Governor Henry McMaster, Tim Scott, Lindsey Graham, our Attorney General, Alan Wilson, and demand they close our primaries. This is unacceptable that we're going to allow cheating in our voting system. But these guys like Lindsey and whoever, that's the only way they get in. One of my consultants said he'll never vote for that because he can't win if the primary was closed, if real Republicans only could vote for him.
Yeah, it just makes absolutely no sense that Republicans do this, that they let non-Republicans weigh in, non-registered Republicans weigh in on who's going to represent their party. In my home state of Arkansas, we have open primaries as well, and I just think it totally hinders the grassroots and those who really are committed to the Republican Party platform. Do you have any hope, Mark Lynch? Do you have any hope that there's going to be an actual debate? Do you think Lindsey Graham will debate, or do you think he will just ignore and go on Sean Hannity every night and plead for support?
I hope he will. I'm ready anytime, any place. Let's talk. The public needs to hear that. They need to see it. This is an important race. It'll probably be, like Roger Stone and I were talking, this might be the biggest race next year is this primary for this United States Senate position. I want to tell everybody too, because I know Trump wants to know that I'm in the game and I'm committed. My wife and I put $5 million of our retirement money into this primary. We're all in 100%. We're committed, and we're going to win this thing because we, the people out here, it may not be the establishment, traitor party of those, and you know who you are because you love Lindsey. And if you're a Republican, I'm going to ask you, how can you answer to your maker and say you're a Republican when you know all these facts that Lindsey and all the horrible stuff he's done? And in one of his interviews when he was running for president, he told, the news reporter, and another thing, how you make America great again? Tell Trump to go to hell. Boy, that's a great character that he has and a great quality, right? One time, one of the news interviews at CPAC, the man asked me when we started the news interview, he said, what's the biggest one thing you would say that's different between you and Lindsey Graham? And I said, well, one thing is my wife over there, 37 years. Lindsey knows nothing about that. I signed the front of my checks, and in our business, Paul, we've been debt-free personally and corporately since 1999 because we know how to run an adding machine. We've got a guy that's over our budgetary committee for our country that knows how to direct $82 million to his bank account, it looks like. We're all tired of it. We're not getting what we're paying for. When I have employees that don't do their job description, we'll we'll write them up, we'll have a conversation, try to bring them back over to the center again so they'll work correctly. When I get in the United States Senate, I know that President Trump will agree it is awesome to have loyal employees that we don't have to threaten, maybe even endorse, to get them to do the right thing. Lindsey's only doing the right thing during the campaign cycle. And everybody's been asking us, we have never seen Lindsey move to the right again this early in a campaign cycle.
Well, he's
he
worried.
knows the pressure.
I mean, look, you're right. Putting $5 million of your own money in to your campaign, that does show that you're serious, and that also is a great war chest to start the campaign. So obviously Lindsey Graham is very nervous. That's why he, it's no coincidence that, he asks for the Trump endorsement, as he knows that you are a serious candidate. I want to urge everybody to go to your website. It's there right there in the lower third. That's lynchforsenate.com. That's lynchforsenate.com. Mark Lynch, I appreciate you throwing your hat in the ring. I look forward to interviewing you again, and I want to give you the last word, sir. Thank you so much for your time, and I want to give you the last word.
Well, I know polling is beginning for us, and when we speak, everybody's loving what we're doing. I'm just raw. What you see is what you get with me. I'm straight up. I don't have to play a game. I'm not going to make a vote on protecting my voters. Like you brought up on January the 20th when we watched it live at home. Lindsey was one of the first ones to head towards the corner to protect his next election voters because he was gambling, and so he wasn't a Trump supporter ever. These guys are never Trumpers until Trump wins. Then they love him then, don't they? We all loved Trump from the beginning because we knew he was the guy that we needed, just a smart businessman that'll do common sense things, and he'll just do what is right for the love of country and love of his family man, and that's me. I'm doing this because I've got to. We've got to get in there and get these people out. I want my 4 grandchildren, maybe there'll be more, but right now there's 4. They need the same opportunity in future that I've enjoyed here in this country. My father was one of the greatest generation. He volunteered to join the Army, 82nd Airborne in World War II, and so did my wife's dad. He was in the Navy, high-level Navy captain. And so I wasn't in the military. We've been living the dream. I want to fight now in these years of our life, and this next season, the next mission trip for me. I've been to Africa and Haiti and all over the world doing mission work. The next mission work is D.C. That's where we got to go. Help me get there.
No, absolutely. No, you're exactly right. We need to send, a lot of missionary teams to Washington, D.C. because it's very much like a totally foreign, unchurched land at this point. Mark Lynch, I look forward to interviewing you again soon. Best of luck to you. Thank you for throwing your hat in the ring. And God bless you, sir, and have a blessed Easter weekend.
You too. God bless you, Paul. Thank you for what you're doing. This
makes
a big difference.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. All right, be safe. Folks, again, that's Mark Lynch. You can find out more. Again, lynchforsenate.com. That's lynchforsenate.com.